coping saw. In this video we're going to talk about the coping saw. This saw is quite undervalued really because it's a bit frustrating to use and it's quite challenging. It takes a lot of practice to get good on this, but it's a super saw, and if you're studying carpentry and joinery you have to learn how to do it. So we're going to talk about a number of things about this saw in this video. Okay, where do we go with this? So let's just talk a little about the saw itself. So it's a framed saw. It's got this very thin blade on it and a handle. Now there are some mechanics to this in that the handle on modern coping saws like this, the handle turns. Let's start with changing the blade and explain a bit about the blade in here. Turning this blade will actually totally dismantle this. A lot of people end up dismantling this altogether, and then it becomes a little difficult to replace the blade. You don't have to dismantle it altogether. You can just twist it quite a bit, loosen the tension and change the blade. Just for demonstration, I'm going to actually take it out all the way, because it does often happen that people have dismantled these and they don't know how to put them back together. So that's coming out now. We've lost a few bits. How close can you get to this? Let's get you over this and you can have a look at it. Okay, so we have the saw totally dismantled. We've got a frame on it and all these parts will come fully apart. So to reassemble it, full circular hole will be on the handle side. The notched piece will be on this end holder with the notch in it. I'll put that in there and turn it. Then we're going to put this holder back through the hole with a washer and get a handle back on it. Now, ideally you don't take these apart, but if you have taken it apart, this is how to put it back together. That will go in there. If that's left, it will drop out eventually if it's turned all the way around. You get and I get you a close up on that. In there and out. So we don't want to lose these parts. So ideally, you always keep a blade in it. On the blade, you will see that it's got these little barrels either side of the blade. That will hook in there. Then here's a tricky part. This is tricky if you're doing it on site and it's quite awkward. This will stretch out fairly far. It's annoying. Yeah, without cutting yourself, because the teeth will be sharp. That will catch in that one and tighten that up. That is not the easiest way to change a blade. I'm going to show you an easier way to change the blade. Let's tighten this up first and I'll show you. But whilst we're looking at it closely, have a look at this. You see the teeth on the blade? The teeth on this blade are facing that direction or that direction. So that means as you're cutting through some material, the teeth will cut on the pull, not on the push. They'll cut on the pull. And that's the ideal way to have the coping saw set up, is to be cutting it on the pull. Let's go back out and I'll show you an easier way to change the blade on these, certainly when you're in a workshop and you've got a bench vise. Okay, hold it, not on the corner, but at the end of the frame. Then you can hold the pin here, loosen that, don't undo it the whole way. Then you can apply some pressure down on that and that's springing out. That'll easily undo. If you need to turn the blade, do so. I'm going to put it back where the blade is going to cut on the pull, where the teeth are facing the handle coming this direction. Push that in there, little tension, and then tighten it up. That way it doesn't all fall apart on you. Tighten that up. Now, if I get a piece of timber, here's another thing. If I get a piece of timber and... So if we listen to this, this is loose now. That's a higher pitch. So the higher pitch, the higher the tension. The lower the pitch, too low. The other thing with this is that's as tight as that'll go. So that's as tight as that blade will go. Quite a high pitch. Now I've changed my blade or tightened it up, you can take that out of the vise and learn a bit more about it. So the coping saw is great for cutting curves. That's quite tight. That's as tight as that one will go. I want to cut a profile. I've created a jig because this is going to take a lot of practice. So instead of getting a compass and marking this out continually and working out your profile, create a jig or a profile that you can use. And you use the same profile and continue to practice on that profile. So I've set this up. That will go on my timber, and you mark out that line on one side and mark it up on both sides of the timber, and then square that across so you can see your lines where you're going to as well. So I'll show you that. So that's marked that side and on that side, and it's squared round. So now we have the lines all the way around to follow. The other thing with this, when you set this up and you have these prongs sticking up here, that means the blade is in line with the frame. It doesn't always have to stay in line with the frame. On this one it will be alright on it. If I was cutting round further, the frame might get in the way. So what I'd want to do is actually adjust the blade. So now the blade is in line with the prongs here, but not with the frame. It doesn't always have to stay in line with the frame. That allows you to put a cut in here that if you're cutting through something and turning round, the frame can stay out of your way. So you can adjust that, and that is helpful. In this instance, I'm actually going to leave it straight, and I'm going to, instead of setting my timber up where I've got to cut and curve round, I will adjust the timber to be nearly plumb, and then I'll just have to curve a small amount. So on this one, we might want to get closer up to this. Mark your waist side, and we're going to start on the waist side of the line. Now, if I was worried about this cutting my fingers, take a scrap bit of timber and put it there for you so you don't cut your fingers. I'm used to doing it. I'll use my fingernail, and you're aiming to leave the line here so that it's within 1 mil, and that'll get a top mark. Within 2 mil, it's pretty good. 3 mil, it's okay, acceptable. 4 mil, too far out. Need to take another go at it. When you're cutting it, starting out, nice and easy on it, but it doesn't stay. Don't keep it too still, and keep the blade going in motion. And as you're doing it, if you keep the frame square all the time instead of tilting it, it'll be easier to watch. Use the full length of the blade instead of small little amounts. Full length of the blade. Also, when you're cutting this, I don't know how else to describe this. I find that I need to watch the whole line and trust that your brain is going to tell your hands where to cut. And you just watch the one side of the line and keep that this is level. Let's give this a shot. Using both hands on the handle, not just one, and don't go standing here like that. It will put you out. Both hands on it, stay behind it, and keep it in motion. You see that there? Let's get closer in to look at it. Now, I think it's part of the course to have to make a weird face, because this is a bit of a blooming challenge. See where I'm going? Now, I could start on the other side and make my way back, but I mightn't hit right, so I'll just keep going. If you're doing this as part of your exam, you don't take sandpaper to it, because as an examiner, I'd want to see the saw cuts. Because if you take sandpaper to it, you will be able to finish it and clean it up with sandpaper. So that's actually what you would do on site. but as part of the examination, we would want to see the saw cuts in it. So we'll take a close look at this in a moment and critique my own work. And let's see how we get on with this one. Let's get a close up. So looking at the profile, does it actually match the profile? This is the bit that's gone, was that way, and there. We've cut on the waist side of the line, so the line is still visible. Is it visible on both sides? Yes, visible on both sides. So that's what you want. It's a little choppy out on here, but if I was to measure that, that would be within the 1 mil. Does it look like the profile? Yes, it looks like the profile. And then the other thing to check for this, for yourselves, would be, is it actually square? So when you look at that across there, is it square through the profile? Yeah, I'm happy with that cut. If I was on site and I was doing this for a client, that would get cleaned up with sandpaper. If you're studying the subject, as I said earlier, you don't sand it. You need to see the saw cuts on there so that you can get the feedback from whoever's doing the assessment and give you feedback on how you're cutting it, because otherwise that just all cleans up. So what else have we got about the coping saw? It's a super useful tool. Not finished with it yet. When that's on and it's tight, when you want to go and store this away, undo it a little. So loosen that, because if it's under tension all the time, the frame can lose its springiness. To avoid tension fatigue, just loosen it a small bit. But if you come back to use it the next day, or you're using some others in a college or work environment, just check it. If it's too loose, tighten it up. You do want the blade under tension. Now, if you go through curves that are very tight, you may snap a blade, but we showed you at the beginning how to change it. So, coping saws, there we are. That is a beginner's introduction to coping saws, and something to be able to practice on, simple profile or just draw one. When you draw it freehand, it's difficult because you can't see the other side, so it's best to have the same both sides, and then you can check it for square. Let me know how you get on with that one, and I will do another video on how to do this for a profile for a piece of skirting boards typically, which would be the same for whether it's profiles up the top as well. Subscribe for that one, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Hope that helps. Let me know. Cheers, bye.